Hi folks, this is Don and Linda with the North Country Fishing Report. You know, Linda, one of the things, you and I just went in a store and you helped pick out a rod for me. And as we looked at that rod, and I remembered the time that you went with me. Do you remember what event that was when we went up to the governor's? It was one of the New York State governor's events. It was in the Adirondacks, and we went up there to take part, to represent our area to the governor.
I think it was called an environmental challenge or something. It was a...
Well, that became quite a challenge for you because it was a little stream near where the main event was. And we had two game wardens that had decided to try to teach you how to fish for trout in this stream. And this is really a key event right now that I'm thinking about, because one of our goals, when we know that there's a lot of people that listen to the radio that hear our show, and they may have never fished before.
Right.
And I think one of the first things that people need to address when learning to go fishing is how to get the lure out there into the water, or the bait, and that means how to cast. And that was something that these game wardens, at the end of the day, they were throwing their hats in the air because their finale and getting you to cast was seeing you with a lure hooked up in the trees and wanting them to try to get the lure out of the trees for you. But this brings up a great point. You know, at the time, I think they were trying to get you to use a push-button spin casting reel.
Yes.
And, you know, we think of that as one of the first steps for getting kids to learn how to fish. But actually, they make some push-button spin, and they call it spin casting. They're basically spinning tackle that they design for starters. But today they're making some really high-quality spin casting rods and reels. And this is something I would advise people that want to get into fishing. This would be a good way to start. Now, we were talking to the manager of one of our stores, and he said that growing up, that's what he learned, and he never could get to cast a bait caster or anything else. That's what he used. And I said, well, you know, when I was a kid is when spinning tackle really came into vogue. And my dad had been a fly fisherman, and for him to start spin fishing with me, he couldn't use a conventional spinning reel. He couldn't get the hang of it for some unknown reason, so he had to use a push-button reel, and he used that for the whole rest of his life. That's how he fished. And I want people to realize that's a good option for you to choose, is a push-button spin caster, because they make them now with good drag systems, and they're made of higher quality materials. And it's really a good option for people.
And let me add another layer to this discussion, Don. It occurs to me, as someone who helps you with these shows, I'm not a fisherman. I could never, it would take me years to understand what I have to do. But I would say this, for the newbies in your audience who would like to learn how to do that, the first order of business might be find a rod and a reel that works for you. Put a basket, a laundry basket, a bushel basket that held vegetables, whatever. Put it in the yard and practice. Put a bobber on the end and practice the art of getting that bobber into the basket.
You're saying, in this case, the bobber is just your casting weight. It's something you're not using. A bobber's designed to keep your bait afloat in the water. But in this case, you're talking, they actually make little hookless casting spoons for people to use and do this.
I didn't know that, but that would also be very effective. What you're trying to do is train yourself to understand the dynamics of wherever I cast, I want that lure to land. Not in the tree, not behind in someone's face or, you know, in your back, as we'd reported some time ago, but rather practice all by yourself getting that lure into the basket. So then when you go out to a stream, you at least look like, well, I sort of know what I'm doing. You know, it takes a long time to
casting is a gigantic part of fishing.
Yes.
If you're not trolling, then you need to be able to get the lure out there on your own and reel it in. And so learning how to use a rod and reel is critical.
Yes.
And learning how to cast. It's so similar to throwing a ball. It's the same type of motion. You have to know, when you're throwing a ball, you have to know when to let your hand release the ball so it can go straight out and not fall on the ground. It's the same with a fishing rod. You have to learn when to release your thumb from that button or when to release your finger from the line if you're using a regular spinning reel. It's all the same principle, and it's just about being athletic to some degree.
Well, and practice makes perfect in this case.
Yes, it does.
Continually doing this might help in the long run.
It does. So don't be afraid of using what we think of as basic tackle, because if that basic tackle helps you to learn how to fish, it is critical. It's the most important thing of all.
Yes.
And some of these push-button reels are really excellent. You could use those the rest of your life like my dad did. You could catch lots of fish that you can have fish stories about and enjoy great meals.
Absolutely.
Until next time, folks, this is Don and Linda with the North Country Fishing Report.